Thank you for watching our Vows by Mojica. These episodes offer realistic tips and stories that will help keep our marriages strong. Here, we interview couples who have been married for 20 plus years, who show us what it means to them to keep their marital vows. This season, we interviewed couples who, during moments of trials, differences, and tragedies, learned that it was by stepping back and refocusing their energy and commitment in each other that they were enabled to find strength in their marriage.
Well, Kathy, we met in high school, and she was in our drama class, and I think it was her hair that first did it for me, was the fact that it was clear down to her bottom, and it was coal black, and I guess I liked black hair better than I did blonde hair. But and then later on, she in high school, she started working for my father. We owned a candy business and an ice cream store. Actually, the ice cream store was opened the day I was born. So I was literally born in an ice cream and candy factory. So, but Kathy started working for us in, was it your junior year or sophomore year?
You know, it's my junior year, I think.
Yeah, and you know, I just kind of joke around with her and got to know her that way. And she was a fun, loving, caring kind of person, and we had all kinds of people come through the store that worked for us, but she was pretty focused on her work and everything, and she seemed to put up with my father and my stepmother, and she had a lot of the same qualities that I was looking for in a person. And even at that young age, was I a senior at that time? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a senior. And I'd been kind of tired of dating different people and things, and I was kind of, I don't know, at that time I was kind of focusing on wanting to find someone that I could spend my time with. So, but that...
Well, what was funny was he asked me out every week, and every week I said yes. But he had a girlfriend and I had a boyfriend, so we knew, it was just a joke. And then the first time I ever went skiing, I broke my leg. And when I got back to work, my leg was still really swollen the first day back. And he said, "Oh, your boyfriend's not going to like that you have a swollen leg." And I said, "Then I don't have anything to worry about because we broke up." He goes, "You did? Do you want to go out?" I said, "Yeah, I could go out." I was very calm and cool. "Yeah, I could go out. We could go out." And he goes, "I mean it this time. I'm showing up this time." And I said, "Yeah, we could do that." I was just so calm. So he went out the back door, and I thought he left. And I ran around. I was very close to his stepmom. We just always had a good time together. I said, Bonnie, guess what? Dennis asked me out." Well, I didn't know he went around to the front door because he was going to tell her that we actually had a date. So here I was all calm and cool over here, and then we're going out. And he was right behind me. So that was a little embarrassing. And then the night of the date, I had purchased a leather coat, and my mom had taken me to get it out. And I had totally forgot. I remembered the date, but I didn't remember. I think we were going to meet at 7. And I looked at my watch, and it was like 7:15. And I said, "Oh, no, I got to go right now," because I was afraid he would think that I didn't really want to go out with him. And so we got home, and he's in there just talking to my dad, And so, I mean, it's just... I don't know, we were just good friends first. We joked around and we had fun at work, and And his dad had an insulation company, so he was insulating, and I was just working in the candy store. So we saw each other a lot, and so that kind of was our first date.
Yeah. So. And when we would go out, if we went bowling and just had a really good time. Or at that time, bowling was kind of a big thing, and then we'd go to the park, and I'd swing her around, and
we'd love to swing on the swing sets and just play in the park, and we just had a good time.
Yeah.
And so many guys that you date, they're just, you go to a movie and they don't want to watch the movie, and with Dennis it was so different. It was fun. We had a good time, but I mean, he was so respectful of me, and we just had fun together. So I think that for me, he was like, wow, this is so fun to date him.
Yeah.
So
it was an actual date,
we just had a good time.
You didn't have to watch yourself all the time.
And, he got along well with my parents, and I already knew his parents and loved his parents. And so it was just like, it was really good.
Yeah. Oh, I was back there just splitting a gut. I thought it was so funny. And I couldn't believe that she was actually doing that, and it actually made me feel pretty good, to realize that somebody really, was that excited about going out with me, because I was kind of a shy person in that respect, and people used to always think I was a stuck-up person, because I didn't talk a lot. I was just focused on work and everything else. So yeah, I was pretty excited about that, and then when Kathy left, my mother Bonnie, we just talked about it and had a good time and started laughing and joking around and everything. So she really liked Kathy, and come to find out, she liked Kathy so much that I went away for a couple of years and did some volunteer work for our church, and then I came back, and before I came back, Kathy had started writing to me. I was actually in San Francisco and Palo Alto, that kind of area, and when she wrote to me, she hadn't written to me for. We kind of broke up before I left, and then she hadn't written to me for about a year and a half, and then she started writing to me, and it started connecting. All our dots were starting to connect, and when I came home, I dated a few women and different things, but it all came back to Kathy. So.
Well, I have to tell you a little insert here. When we first started dating, he told me, when I really like a girl, I'll ask her out a week in advance. And if I don't like a girl very much, it might be the night before I ask her out. Well, with our insulation company, we lived in Idaho, and Sun Valley, Idaho is about 2 hours away, and they did a lot of work up there. So I always remembered him saying that, and he always asked me out a week in advance. And this one time, he didn't ask me out, and then he called me the night before and said, will you go out tomorrow night? Well, that just came to my head, what he said, and I'm like, he's asking me out a day before. And so I said, no, I can't go out. And I didn't tell him why. I just said, no, I can't go out tomorrow night. And he had worked so hard to get all the jobs done. They worked till late in the night, but he waited till the night before to call me because he didn't know if he'd be done or not. And so he got everything done. He thought, okay, I'll be home in time. We can have a date. So I didn't tell him why I said no. And that made him mad. And I go, what do you mean you don't want to go out with me? And so then that's how we broke up. And so we didn't talk about it. But I just thought to myself, are you kidding me? We have great times. We have fun together. He's asked me out the day before. No, I'm not going out with him anymore. He doesn't like me anymore. And then he left, and he would write to his parents and everything. And Bonnie would always say, Kathy, write to him. I said, nah, I'm not going to write to him. And then finally I thought, well, I guess I could. And so we started writing and stuff, and just wrote as friends, and seeing how he's doing and kind of be supportive and stuff. And And then when he got back home, I was at college and I happened to be home for my best friend's wedding, and he called me and he said, "Would you want to go out tomorrow night?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be good to, just to get together and talk." And I can't remember if I think that's when we talked about, why did you go out with me that night?
Yeah.
Had we had that conversation then, we would have probably written the whole time, but so. The cherished memory from our wedding day, I just remember I was so glad that many family members were there, and you had a couple friends that came that was special, and I was so excited, but at the same time so nervous. You're starting off, and there is no guarantees. So many people that get divorced and it doesn't work out, but everybody starts off really strong, and so all that goes through my head, but nervousness and excited at the same time. But I think the most important thing is I felt so comfortable with Dennis. I felt like he was the one I was supposed to find, and I found him. And so glad that I found him, and the times that we'd had together, and we felt like we were on this huge adventure. Whatever happens, whatever life throws at us, we have each other. And I just think we just always had a strong bond, and we were always so good at about talking things through and telling our feelings. I was in college with 5 other girls, and I always said, this is the best pre-marriage I could do, because if I get along with 5 girls, and the one thing that we said was the most important thing is if anybody is upset about anything, we need to talk about it right away, because if you let it fester, it gets worse. But it's just a little thing to start with. So we were really good about talking about things, and we made the rule we were never going to go to bed if we're mad at the other one. Sometimes we may have stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning talking, but we were real good about that and just communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Don't you think? What did you think about on our wedding day?
Well, I was really excited for the day, and I was nervous, and I just wanted to. I just wanted to look sharp and
And you did.
be the best I could be that day, and I just remember everybody trying to give me advice and putting their own 2 cents in.
Yeah, your brothers, you pulling you aside.
Yeah, and I could have cared less about their advice. I was just wanting to get married, and I was excited for the day, because this is the day that I was marrying, my one and only, and that I'd be married forever. And and since that day and the excitement of the day, you don't know what to really expect, because you're excited about the day and everything else, but after it's all said and done, and then you have that quiet moment, and nobody's around and everything, that's when I got, I guess it was a humbling experience to me, because I just really thought I thought I'd won the most beautiful woman in the world, and I wanted to treat you with dignity and respect and love and understanding, and I wanted to give you everything. And at that time, I always thought the world is my oyster, and that we could accomplish anything, and I think we've accomplished a lot. But I also knew that even before we got married, that you would have struggles and things like that, and I felt like I met a person that I could work things out, and that had the same feelings that I had, and the same exciting thoughts about life that I had, and it turned out to be true. So here we are 43 years later, and I'm still as excited as I was the day we were married.
And I think what's interesting is you do fall in love more and more. Like when I think about a person came up to us from our church that was probably in his 90s, and he said, "You think you love each other now, but you don't love each other anything like what I love my wife." And I remember thinking, well, how rude is that? He doesn't know how much we love each other. But I've thought of that over the years, because as you go through, trials and situations and happy times, your relationship grows together more and more, and you become, you almost begin to come to look alike a little bit, but you just become so much intertwined with each other. And it is, the more years you're married, the more things you've gone through, the more things under your belt, and it does make you closer.
Yeah.
So he was right. I mean, as much as we loved each other then, we love each other so much more now.
Yeah.
We've been through things, and we have our kids, and we just have this whole history. I've been married longer than I was single, like by far. And so when you think about that, sometimes it's like, oh wow. Remember the times when we're like, oh wow, we've been married like 22 years. We've been married longer than we were single.
Yeah.
And it's like, that time went so fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We've been married 43 years, and it's the best thing we ever did. It isn't always perfect. And I think when people get married, and I know I thought this, everything's going to be wonderful. You're married, you found your person, but you still have life to go through, and there's ups and downs. And the most important thing is you have to figure out what makes you happy, and you have to be the one to make you happy. You can't rely on someone else to make you happy. And it has to be, you have to find your inner peace. You have to find what you do to make you happy. And when you have little kids and toddlers and whatever, you're like, oh, if I just had a minute. But I think what I want to tell people is, don't wish away that time. We would give anything to have that time back, because there's nothing better than the time that all your kids are home under your roof. You know where they're at. You're there. You're guiding them. You're helping them, and you're with them every day. That is like the best. We love being empty nesters too. We enjoy our time now, but we look back and talk so many times about, oh, when the kids were all here, and when the kids were little, and remember when we did this and that. Those are our cherished moments of raising our children and trying to figure it out as we go.
Well, I remember the first house we had. It was this little tiny place. And I thought, boy, we are really starting in humble beginnings.
Okay, an expectation that wasn't met. I just remember Dennis's mom died when he was 12, so I never met his mom. And I remember after we were married, it's like, how can you not pick your clothes up? You wear those clothes, put them in the dirty clothes, or hang them back up, or whatever you want to do with them. And I remember saying, I cannot wait to meet your mom. And I'm going to ask her, why did you not teach him to pick up his clothes? And then when we had kids, I knew I taught them to pick up their clothes. And I was amazed when you go in their room, and it's just like a pigsty. And I'm like, I guess she did teach him. He just didn't do it. And one time, it was so funny that we lived in a 3-story house, and the kids I was gone a lot with work, and had to work a lot of extra hours, and Dennis was at school studying and stuff. And so anyway, the kids were home alone, and the place was a mess. And Dennis went around with the video camera, because he had said, get all your stuff picked up. And then so everything was still laying around. So we went around the video camera. I can't remember exactly what you said, but something like,
That's not my
That's
clothes.
not my clothes.
That's not my clothes.
To every pile.
To every pile. I went clear through the whole house, and I said,
And then we sat and watched it.
So whose clothes are those? And the kid said, well, they're our clothes. And I said, so do you want the clothes for very long or just for a short period of time? And they said, a long time. And I said, well, then you have to pick them up. And so it was kind of funny. But I thought I was teaching them a lesson, but I don't know if they ever.
Well, that was good, though, because it was good because it showed them, like, oh, wow, I got caught.
Yeah.
That's where my clothes
we had a video camera.
We'll just take them all and throw them away if they don't belong to anybody here.
Yeah.
So.
But I guess it's like I had expectations, and when I'm working hard and I would come home and I'd just exhausted, and I didn't have energy to cook or anything like that, and so Kathy, it never even crossed my mind that Kathy was taking care of the kids, and that took a lot of work too, probably as much or more than what I was doing. But I always expected there to be dinner, and if it wasn't there, oh man, I was just I didn't rant and rave or anything. I was just upset inside and disappointed, and I thought, man, I'm working all this time. Why can't you at least cook some food? And it's like you expect your spouse to do one thing, and then she has expectations of me, and you don't realize what's going on the other side. And sometimes that takes a long time to realize that. And I had some anger problems, and I think it was probably because of construction. Everything was it wasn't just a hammer. It always had a something before it. It was an effing hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Or everything had to be prefaced with the F word or something. And Kathy wasn't. Kathy had never sworn in her life ever, and I was. So I made up for all of that she didn't do on my end, but I never was angry at her, and when I'd get angry, she made me realize that my anger really wasn't effective. It was, I'm being angry, but I'm not really accomplishing anything with my anger. It's you're making people draw away from you rather drawing closer. So she taught me how to control that anger. So I guess when you have expectations and when somebody does something like do the tooth, that really is true. When somebody does not put the toothpaste and roll it up right, man, that really is it chaps my hide, And I think, golly, can't you just roll that up? You have to just, because there's all this you could use. But if that's the worst thing in your marriage, boy, you've got it made. Because, and what's funny, when you get together and you're always together, it seems, you always got to come home now to this person and these children. And you've always got to you've got to work on things constantly. And they teach you so much, and that environment teaches you so much, how to control yourself, how to become a better person. So, when they say there's no books that are written that could help you with your family and things, in some ways that's true, because you have to learn through experience. And that's what I learned. It was when we first got married, you look at each other and you touch each other and you feel your feelings, but then sometimes you think, I've just had too much of this. I need some Dennis time, or Kathy needs some Kathy time. And what's good about Kathy and I is we've always given each other that time, and it really, I just, don't you think?
Oh yeah, like I have a passion to work in the yard, and I work all week, and I have long hours sometimes. And Dennis was when he was working all week. Saturday was my only day to go do my yard, and there's times I have like 10 flower beds. It takes a lot to keep up your flower beds, but I can't have them all weedy looking and looking bad. And so there's times I would spend 9 hours on Saturday out in the yard doing the yard work. And Dennis was so supportive of that, and because he knew I needed that. He knew that was what made me happy. It made my yard look good, and I mow my yard. Like Thursday night I tried to mow my lawn, and then Friday night we'd hang out, and then Saturday I would have my day in the yard every Saturday.
Well, we always had our date nights.
Yeah.
Every week we had a date night, and that became kind of almost too much of a habit. That was in Idaho. When we came here, before we came here, Kathy and I had lost everything from a business that we were involved with my brother, and we literally came to Kansas with $500 to our name, and we had to start over from scratch. So I went back to school, and Kathy worked at Wendy's, and she would bring home a bag they gave her one meal.
Well, I looked like the biggest hog because I couldn't get anything for anyone else. I just had to get it for me. And so I'd say, I think I want to try that salad tonight. That hamburger looks really good. I better have a Frosty. And we would literally go home and divide up the food. And everybody saw me coming, and they'd come running. Mom's here with dinner.
But what was fun about it is it was an adventure for us. And, I figured, hey, everybody in college is eating ramen noodles, so I can deal with that. And when you lose everything that you had, we lost our home, literally everything. And when we came here, you would think that would just tear you apart. But the strength that Kathy would turn to me and she said, Dennis, I'll do whatever you want to do, and I'll go wherever you want to go. And so I wanted to go back to school. That's every time I was on construction sites and everything, people said, by the time you're 50, you're going to be totally beat up and your body's not going to work like you want it to. So you need an education. And I didn't have that education that I wanted. I wanted a higher level. So that's why we came here to Kansas, is to get an education. And my kids, even at young ages, they went out and got jobs, and they helped, and we all pitched in, and man, it was probably the coolest experience you could ever have as a family, is to start from scratch, all of your kids at the same time, no matter what age, so they remember that. And then when they grew up, and they weren't given things, they had to earn it, and I wasn't able to provide them with insurance for their cars and everything else. They provided for themselves. So each and every one of them became very successful in their lives, and it's because of their seeing what we went through. And I always had a positive attitude. Everybody would say, how you doing, Dennis? And I'd always say, great. I always said great. That's just something I did. Because when I lost my mother when I was 12 years old, the only way I could get through that experience, and then when I lost my mother, my father left for 6 months, and we literally had a restaurant that my brother and I had to run. He was 16 and I was 12, and
that's where they ate.
That's where we ate in the restaurant, and we managed the restaurant at that young of an age.
And they had employees that were really good.
So, but I learned from that experience, and that I had to fend for myself. And when you come to Kansas with $500 to your name, you got to think of things. We weren't gonna. We didn't want to go on any kind of assistance programs or anything. We just wanted to go through school and make our lives better, and we did. And so Nicholas one time, Frito-Lay had a warehouse, and they would.
He had a paper route.
Yeah, he had a paper route, and the guy at Frito-Lay said, "Well, any excess chips that we have, or a little outdated ones, I'll leave them in this garbage sack."
And he put them in a ditch.
Yeah, and he put them in a ditch. So he would go get those, and he said, I'm helping feed the family. So we're eating chips and all the wrong foods, but I'm sure But you know, it was pretty cool that
Remember
he thought
that
of
time?
it.
One time he went to get him, and there was a homeless guy there getting Nicholas's chips, and he fought him for him. He goes, "Those are mine. I'm feeding my family with those."
Yeah.
And, and he was so proud of himself that he got those chips away from that homeless guy because that guy had left him for Nicholas.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, that kind of got off the track there, but.
I know that when we were going through that hard time in Idaho and we lost everything, I remember thinking, will I ever smile again?
Yeah.
I remember talking about that with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just feel bad and you're, you know.
It's like you have weights on your face.
Yeah. Will I ever smile again? And then when he said he wanted to go back to school, you know, he flew out here and looked at the school and liked it. And we decided we made it a big adventure. You know, I mean, we sold everything. I had a Troy-built rototiller that I absolutely loved. And I said, promise me that I can have this again someday. I was 7 months pregnant with twins out there rototilling my flower. I had a garden that I had big walk spaces, and I rototilled in my grass clippings every week. And my doctor was furious at me that you're using a rototiller? You're 7 months along with twins. And I said, you just walk by it. It's just like you're walking. And but I love that Troy-built rototiller. But so we sold everything to get our money and everything, and we actually were really lucky because we were building another house, and we put both houses on the market, thinking whichever one sells, that's when we'll go live in the other one. Well, the new one sold immediately, but then ours sold also, so we thought we'd take advantage of that. And it was so cool how it worked out because the lady lived in California, but she didn't want to move here. So she said, if you could just rent that house from us. So it was perfect. When we did move, we didn't have a house to sell or anything. We'd already done all that. And we just made it a big adventure for the kids. We were excited to come here and see a new place. And we had most of our family lived in Idaho, so we were going to be on our own. And that just strengthened our family because we had each other.
Yeah.
Dennis has a brother that lives here that, you know, we could rely on them if we needed to too, but we really pulled together as a family. The kids, the older two, got jobs. Justin rode his bike clear across town every day, worked at a Mexican restaurant on 6th Street, and we lived way on the other side of town. And they just worked so well together, and they bought their own clothes. We couldn't afford anything. With my job, we could go to movies for $1 a piece, but we didn't have $6 to go to a movie, so we couldn't go. And then I found out that they weren't charging you that dollar.
Well, I remember the first time we went to church, and the only shoes we could find were
Nicholas.
Budweiser shoes.
He had grown out his shoes.
He's grown out of his.
They were $5, and then we thought, we don't really want him to have Budweiser on his shoes, but that's what we could afford.
That's all we could afford, so he went to church in Budweiser shoes. It was really funny. So.
But we were so lucky because our kids were so supportive, and they had known where we had come from, and they were so helpful and willing to do anything.
So I think, you know, we were definitely blessed, you know, and that's how Kathy and I feel, that we're blessed with the things that we have and with each other, and that we know, you know, that we can get through things thick or thin, you know. We lost our son, and he was 29 years old. He was killed in an avalanche. And, you know, I really can't express to you how horrific that is. But it is, and you realize later on that everyone that went through that experience, even Kathy and I, had a different experience. You know, our feelings are different, but you have to have compassion with each other and let each other go through that, and to go through the suffering, and then to come out on the other end and realize that you're still blessed, and that even though that was a tragic event, you come back, and it made our marriage even stronger than it ever was before. And you think, well, it's already strong, but when you come out the end and you can just talk about it, A lot of people, when they lose children, when they lose a loved one, or, you know, when they go through tough situations, they don't talk about it. They just clam up. I don't want to talk about it. Well, Kathy and I are the opposite way. We like to talk through it, and then so we can understand each other's feelings. That way we know what kind of actions we need to do to help the other person.
And we had a saying, it's a Justin day. That's all you had to say. I'm having a Justin day. And the other one would know exactly that they're having a hard time that day. And I think we're lucky that we could talk to each other, that we both were on the same page of what we wanted to do. And I think communication is such a key. You know, even if you don't agree with something or you see opposite sides, sometimes it's we agree to disagree. You know, this is how I feel, this is how you feel. So,
well, a good example of that was when we came home, she would read all these books about death, and, you know, and how people, all these experiences about death. I wasn't interested, you know, but it didn't mean that she would say, oh, if you just read this book or something. Finally, she realized that I you know, that's something I wasn't, you know, I was dealing with it in a different way. And so we respected each other, don't you think?
Yeah.
And I at least on my end, I think. But, you know, Kathy mentioned earlier that you don't know if you can smile again. Well, you realize you can smile again, and that these experiences that we have in life are just experiences that should strengthen you. But you can take an experience and have it not strengthen you. And for 15 years, I was a disability examiner for Social Security. And through that experience, you learn you read medical records, and you learn all the body parts, and you learn about the mental issues of people. And it really taught me a lot about life. And it made me realize that, you know, what I'm reading here about people is just a group of people, and that everybody doesn't have all these problems, that life can be good, and that even if it gets really bad, I've seen people come back from horrific experiences and become really highly successful people and highly successful in their marriages, and so I would come home and talk about a few issues. I wouldn't tell, you know, I couldn't explain about
you can say who it was.
Yeah, or anything. But I shared those experiences with Kathy, and part of that was the fact that some things were so, you've got to have an outlet. And I think that's where people miss out on marriage, is you do have to have an outlet. You have to be able to share those. If you're reading all day about terrible things, you got to come home. I guess if you're a police officer, you know, you got to come home to your family, and you have to try to leave that work at work, and your home different. And I think that's where people miss out, is they get too caught up in the stress of the situation and stop sharing. And that's where I think we've done well, is we share what we have. Kathy's always coming home telling me about her work experiences and everything. Sometimes they're fun to listen to, other times you just listen because you know that's their outlet, you know. So
well, and I think as we get older, things change. Like the things, I think so many times we expect to go be entertained, but you have to look at your spouse and say, can he go out? Can he go do anything? You know, Dennis and I both have had Dennis has had several years of bad health problems, and I had a year of like a hip replacement and then 2 knee replacements within 6 months of each other. And so, and he had a total foot reconstruction in between my surgeries. So we just take care of each other. And we know, I think by having that, I just think we work well together with, if he says, let's go to the movie Friday, but Friday comes and he's having a really painful day, well, we're not going to go to the movie. And I think what's more important is, well, we'll just sit here and watch something. We have movie stations. We'll just figure out a movie to watch, or we'll do something together. You don't have to go spend money. You don't have to go somewhere. If the other person can't, you just need to spend time with them. And sometimes I feel bad. I'm gone all day. And then we have a side business where we have a sewing, a tailoring, and an embroidery business. He does the embroidery stuff, and I do the tailoring stuff. And many nights we'll sit and talk and watch a movie or a show, and we're ripping out nameplates on jerseys, and we're like almost a contest to see how many did you get done? How many did you get done? But I think as your situation changes, you just have to adapt to what it is and not just think, well, I wanted to go to the movie tonight. You said we're going to the movie, and we're going to the movie. Or we were supposed to go out to dinner tonight. Now what are we going to do? So I just think you have to stay in tune with each other and be able to say, it's okay. We can just stay in tonight. Maybe we have a frozen pizza in the freezer. We'll go get a frozen pizza out. We'll just stay here and talk, watch TV, reminisce.
Well, and what's good is going through our I talk about bad experiences, but we've had a lot of great experiences too. And one of them was to develop this business from nothing. And I've always wanted to develop something from nothing. So Kathy got this sewing business kind of started, and then we just grew it from one machine to the next, and we always paid cash for everything that we got. And the business, we don't have to borrow money to do any of our business because it's all paid for, and if we want to sew one night, great. If we don't, but when you're working for helping the athletes and things at the university, some nights there's periods of time when deadlines you've got to meet those deadlines. So, but we have a successful business there. I was successful in getting a job with the state and becoming a disability examiner for Social Security, and I was able to help a lot of people. And Kathy and I both have. What's helped our marriage too is serve people, to give of ourselves to other people, and I think that's where one of our greatest strengths is to give of ourselves to others, and we're always constantly trying to help people, and we just look for things, and if I have an expertise in something, I'm going to share it, and I don't charge them for that kind of stuff, and it's fun to just be able to help people whenever you can.
Well, and I think what's fun, what we enjoy doing, Dennis will have an idea of something we can do, and I'm like, he'll say it, and I'm like, yeah, let's go do that. Or if I have an idea, he's all for that. I think one of our funnest Christmases that we ever had, one year we had just a lot of friends that just had kind of a bad time right now. Somebody just found out they had cancer, and they had a horrible time with cancer. Another friend, the wife was going to school to be a nurse anesthetist, and he broke his leg, and so he was in a wheelchair, and he was a big guy, and he felt bad. So remember that year that we invited 50 people that we knew over for Christmas dinner, and it was like a buffet. It was like a 4-hour time.
Oh yeah.
But I couldn't ask anybody. People say, "What can I bring?" Well, I couldn't have them bring anything because I didn't know when they were coming. And so we made, we started like 2 weeks before making like the candies and the snacks
everything.
and stuff like that. And we invited 50 people that had nowhere to go, had no other family that would be here. And we had 35 come. And it lasted for 6 hours. Yeah. But it was so fun. But it was so cool because they all came at different times. We never had too many people. But, sometimes there'd be upstairs and then downstairs. But we had a ton of food, plenty of food for everybody. And it was so fun. And everyone said, thank you so much. We had nowhere to go. And just stuff like that.
Yeah,
we love doing stuff like
awesome.
that, And we have a really, really good friend that's going to be 93 soon. And she's just the coolest lady. She still sews and she makes quilts and she does so many things. But whenever we make soup or anything that she can eat, I have this dish that we just trade. I'll say, okay, I'm coming over, get your dish ready. And we just switch out dishes, and we give her soup and make chili and just like, and her favorite food is fried chicken. And she's so funny. She's like, probably about 6 years ago, I said, we're going to make you dinner. What's your favorite food? She goes, well, fried chicken, but I really shouldn't eat it. And I said, I think you'll be fine. And so we made this fried chicken meal for her, and she loves watermelon. So we did watermelon, and just whenever we go get something for ourselves, it's not that much to give her enough to feed her. And so she took us out to dinner last year, and she said, you guys feed me all the time. I stay fed because of you guys.
Yeah.
So, but it's just cool to just be there for somebody. And it helps us. We love it.
Yeah.
We love that she helps us. She's like our light to us. So.
When did I figure out this marriage thing? I don't know if you ever really figure it out, but because you're always learning. But I think when when Kathy, before we got married, Kathy had a list, and she made me read this list.
Yeah, we went over it.
Yeah, from her college professor, and quite frankly, I was a little offended because I thought, do I have to meet all these expectations? And so we went through that list. You know what's funny is we went through the list, and I didn't like it and everything else, and didn't like her professor for having to make this list. But I think it really set a great foundation for us. But I think after Justin died, our oldest son, I think I realized that my life exists for my family. And if I don't have my family, what do I have? So I know that our children move on and go and do things, but the love of my life has always been Kathy. And every time I look at her, I see the greatest thing Kathy has ever done for me is look into my eyes. And when she looks into my eyes directly and just kind of beams in, she is just knockout gorgeous to me all the time. And as we age, our bodies aren't as delightsome as they used to be. But, I still look in those eyes and I think, my gosh, I still have the love of my life. And she's been with me all my life. And there's probably hardly, since we've been married for 43 years, I can only think of, I bet you I can't think of even months that we were apart. We've always been together. And sometimes that's been tough, but I think we both figured it out because we had to give and take so much.
Well, do you remember before we got married, Roy Babel said to us, it's not just 50-50. You have to give 150%, 150% every day, all the time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember
that. Really
that.
Struck me, and I thought, oh, wow, that's a lot all the time. But it's true. It's like, I don't think you ever figured out because you always are working at something. You're trying to think of your partner first and your husband first and get what he needs and what he needs to do. And so you are always, if you think, oh, I got made, you're going to not be doing what you need to be doing, I think. So I think and my professor with those things, it was so funny because it was a marriage and family class. And it was everything, stuff that you wouldn't even think about. And he said to us, before you get married, you have to sit down with your spouse, your fiance, and go through these lessons or these stories, questions, because it was like how you discipline kids, stuff that, who thinks about that when you're not married yet? You don't have kids, you don't think about it. But it made us think about, how would I react to that? How would I do? And I think that helped us.
Yeah, I think so.
You're on the same page and everything. Because, there's times you don't do exactly like you said. You may have yelled at your child and you were never going to do that. And you're like, well, you didn't say that when we were going through those things. You think that in your head. But we're all human, and buttons get pushed or whatever, but I think that helped us, to get started and stuff.
One of the greatest things I ever learned was, and it took me a long time to learn this, is to count to 10. If you're angry at something, count to 10. And it will give you more perspective on what's going on. And you can bring that anger down to a level where it's controllable. And it's so easy to just say something at the moment. And if you count to 10, it gives you a chance to think about. Chances are you probably won't swear. You probably won't say bad things. You'll realize that you need to work this out. And I think that's a big lesson I've learned. And but I think just the physical touch. I've had some health issues for a long, long time, and I've been in pain for a good 13 years, significant pain. And I remember the other day someone came over and I had almost gone into a diabetic coma. And this was last week, and I realized that he asked me what I needed, and I said, sometimes all I need is a hug. And if I get a hug from Kathy, man, I'll tell you, that's like the Energizer Bunny for me, because, all it takes is just that touch. So that's what she would do with me all my life. She if I was angry, she'd just come over and grab me and touch me and hug me. And that would wreck me, because I couldn't be angry anymore. So I just, I think when you say figure this thing out, I don't know if we've ever figured it out, but I think that our love is just, as I age, I'll be 65 in June. As I age, I think I wouldn't want to be with anybody else. And I've never thought that. I've never thought, oh, wow, I could have had this, I could have had that. Never once thought that. And I'm sure other people have thought the opposite, but that's just never crossed my mind, because I know what I have. I'm lucky.
When you're talking about my professor, another thing that reminded me, remember we talked about this, he said, when you get mad, stop and don't just think about what you're going to say, because once you say it, they can say, oh, I forgive you, but you've said it, and that's always going to be in their head what you said. And so I always thought about that. I always thought, is that really what I want to say? Is that really how I feel, or is that because I'm...
And I know when I've hurt you.
Yeah.
She'll look at me just as much as I love her when she looks at me normally. I love her, and she can all of a sudden have this little crinkle on her face, and I know I've really hurt her. So, when I've hurt her, it kills me. It just destroys me. So I do everything I can to make it up, and I hope I haven't destroyed it. But anyway, that's how I think we've figured it out.
Well, and I think we're just treat how you want to be treated. Like, be nice and and be understanding, and like, everybody can have a bad day. You might, like I said before, you might have something planned, but you can change your plans.
Yeah.
So
we're still here, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. I think as far as in a wedding, when they say till death do you part, and better or worse, I think we both feel like it didn't need to be said even. It's like we chose each other for the long haul, and we just have to do what's best for us, and we're always looking out for the other one. And I think both of us throughout the years, if something's wrong with you or me, we always take care of you ourselves, and we're there for you. And like Dennis had times that he had a surgery that I took a month off work because he had to have me home all the time. And then like a year later, I took 6 weeks off work because he had to have me home all the time. And when I had my surgeries this year, he was right here, even though I knew he didn't feel great. His foot still was not great at all, but he did whatever he needed to do to help me. So I think we just take care. So I guess for better or for worse, it's great the good times, and it's easy in the good times, but it's the times that things are a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, and I think that respecting each other as an individual, because you have desires and goals that are separate from my desires and goals, but you have to respect those, because if you don't respect that, then you become consumed in your own, what your wants and desires are, and then you become a self-centered person. And I think when you have a spouse, you have to realize, I've always respected women, and I've thought that they deserve as much as they can, because, and it's even in the workforce, because they've always worked hard, and Kathy's always worked hard at home and done far more than I probably ever did in any of my work. But she's working now, and sometimes she has to travel, and I don't ever get jealous about that. And right now, she has a job. I'm retired, and I don't get jealous of the time she's spending away. I'm glad that she's enjoying what she's doing, and she can work as long as she wants to. It doesn't matter to me. But we have a business together, and I just respect that so much. I respect what she does in the business. She does far more than I do, but to be able to share our talents with each other, but I think the main thing is to respect the other person, and to respect that they might be traveling a little different path than you are, but it really doesn't matter, because you're a family. It's just like your kids. You want them to go out and you want them to succeed. Why would you not want your spouse to succeed? Why would you always want her there at your side every single minute of every single day? That's obsessive to me. You want them to be individuals. You want them to have desires and goals, and then they can bring home that excitement, and it's exciting to help the team. It's exciting to build a home. It's exciting to remodel a home. When we bought this house needed a lot of work, but Kathy and I did it together. She brought in all this dirt, did all the landscaping. I mean, we're talking semi-loads of dirt, 7 of them. And she hand-fed that dirt to every part of our property.
It was funny because Dennis, when he was on the redesign team for Social Security, and so he had to be gone for 5 months. That's the longest we've been apart.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, did you get to come home? I don't think you got to come home every weekend. Just
no,
every
I
now and
didn't.
then. And so I didn't have to worry about dinner because the kids were old enough just to do something quick. So I was outside at midnight every night. I had these big halogen lights. I had my lights on, and I'm just like throwing my dirt because I was making hills and stuff like that. This is awesome. No one's here to tell me it's time to go to bed.
But we, coming from the building industry and always building new homes, and the last home we built was just one of our dream homes. But we came here and remodeled this house, and it took some time and things, but we just did it as we could. But we've done everything together. So, it just has been a lot of fun. And
remember the time we were outside at 2:30 in the morning cutting tile, and I said, somebody's going to call the cops on us.
Yeah.
It's summertime, we're out there with the saw.
Well, that's an advantage we have, is I know how to build things, and I know how to tile, I know how to frame out, I know how to do just about everything with construction. But
and I appreciate Dennis because so how many people have like their husband does whatever their profession, he does it for everybody else but not for them. But he came and we decide, we need to remodel our kitchen, how are we going to do it? And he knows how to do it. I can help him do the job. I'd be the little worker, but I don't know how. I don't know all the stuff he knows. And so,
well, and that's the way with our sewing business.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
You know a lot of things,
so we
and
just
I
work
don't.
well together,
Yeah.
and we enjoy working together.
Yep.
There's times it's like you have to walk away. It's like, okay, I need a break. You need a break. Oh, when we remodeled the kitchen, it was 1 month before Jody got married, and we moved the kitchen table in here with the microwave. We used a barbecue grill, and one of Nicholas's friends, Jimmy, rigged the dishwasher, and he said, don't use it a lot. You can use it, maybe once a week. So we just were like, we had no kitchen, which was hard, but I think we were done just in time for her wedding, and so we worked every single night on that.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. Advice that we would give a newly engaged couple. I think for me, it's don't expect everything to be perfect. Don't expect, you're excited, you're happy, you just got together, or you love each other, and this is all brand new, and expect that it won't be like that all the time. You have to, like I said earlier, you have to figure out what makes you happy, and you have to make yourself happy, and know that neither one of you are perfect. There's going to be things that arise, but the most important thing is to talk it out, talk about problems. And I think for me, this is how I feel. I don't know if other people feel this way, but so many of the students that I work with, and as people get married, they still have girls' night out and boys' night out, like all the time. Well, you're married now. You shouldn't have like, oh, I'm going to a girls' night out. In my mind, it should be, what couples can we find that we enjoy, both of us enjoy being together, and go out as a couple with somebody else, or just go out by yourselves, because you're married, and so why do you need to go out and be out all night long with your girlfriends or your boyfriends, So to me, that I've watched that happen with the students and stuff, and I've always felt like, and I'll say to them, gosh, to me, when you're married, and it's okay every now and then if you want to hang out with a girlfriend, sometime, but don't make it every couple of weeks that you're going out with your girlfriends, because you're married now. You should be building something together.
Yeah. Well, if I was to give advice to someone getting married, I go back to people that get divorced, and I say, before you think about getting divorced, think about how you felt before you got married, because you have these strong feelings and these strong desires and expectations, and they were there. All those expectations were there, and you knew that you loved that woman, or you wouldn't have got married, because that's really true. So nowadays it's just too easy to just forget that. I always say, no matter how many troubles you have, no matter what's going on in your life, go back and think about before you got married, how you were feeling, and just realize that life is an adventure. I believe in a higher power, and I actually believe in God, and I believe that He put us here to be happy. He didn't want us to be miserable all our lives. Always go back to how you felt about your wife or your husband before you got married, because, man, those are powerful feelings. It's electric, and it's electric as you're going through this experience. And life is so great to live. No matter what you're doing, it is great to live. I don't even care if you're making mistakes. Hey, at least you're doing something. You don't become successful without making those mistakes. When you build a home, I've done things wrong when I was building homes, and I learned from experience, from the greatest architects and from the greatest carpenters on earth. Because I was fortunate to live in an area where those people built homes and built commercial buildings. And I've had the privilege of doing that in my life. So these are all exciting things. And even after I lost everything in my life, I've regained everything back in my life. And the greatest thing in my life is my wife. You just can't say it any better than that. So realize in 43 years, you stick together. You know, we've been married for 43 years. That's an incredible experience in your life. So if you want to have a great life, stick together, you know, because you're not going to have anything. You think you're always going to have something better on the other side? It's going to be the same stuff, you know? Just realize that you have to work through it.
Well, and I always tell people that look at how they treat their parents, because that's how they're going to treat you. So kind of, you know, look at that. But I think we're such a throwaway society. We are, you know, if something breaks, we throw it away and go buy a new. And I think marriage sometimes becomes the same way. It isn't always easy. Sometimes it's hard. And the things that you have to work for are the better things. So don't just think, I'm done with you, I want a divorce, and move on to somebody else. Because how many people get remarried again because they realize, oh, I think I only remember the bad things at the moment where we had a lot of good things. So I think with Dennis, just, you know, realize what you have. You chose that person for a reason. Try to reconnect with what those reasons were, and, you know, communication, and just, you know, give each other a break. And don't be so hard on each other.
And there's nothing better than a big hug.
Yeah.
There really isn't anything better. So
that's our advice.
Yeah, that's our advice.